So I think Kavya and Medha are also here. So again, a very good evening, everyone. Welcome to this Toppers Talk with Kavya and Medha. All right. So firstly, Planet Geology, and we all congratulate you both, Kavya for securing All India rank 7, and Medha for scoring outstanding rank 13. So like thank you for coming for this session. All right. So like before like giving the mic to them and having their journey with us and their insights on various issues of the preparation, I just want to very briefly introduce both of them to you, right? So firstly, I'll start with Kavya, right? So Kavya belongs to Chikmagalur district of Karnataka, and she is an engineer, and she graduated from a college in Bangalore, right? So after her college, she worked firstly in a software company, Mindtree, for around 4 years, right? And then around in 2018, she left her job and she started preparing for UPSC, right? So for GS, she prepared GS using various materials, and then she reached CAC interview stage in 2019, but unfortunately she missed the final rank. All right, and then after 2019, like she struggled in prelims a bit, right? So in 2021, 22, she missed prelims somehow, maybe in GS, maybe in CSAT, right? So it will be interesting to hear her story, and then how she could clear the IFS cutoff in 2023. So in 2023, she appeared only for forest. She prepared only for forest and appeared in forest examination, and she secured an outstanding rank of 7 this year. All right, this is the mark sheet of Kavya, right? Like in whatever the information I have, Kavya is, I think, her written score is second in India, right? After rank 1, she has an score of all India rank 2 in written examination, right? 786. So she has tremendous marks in almost all the paper, right? Her score in forestry is around 215, geology is 272, right? In GK English, everywhere she scored a decent score, and that is why such a rank, right? About Medha has done her bachelor's from Hindu College in from Delhi University in 2014, right? She was a physics graduate, and then in 2022 she completed her, I think MBA from ISB Hyderabad. Since 2022, she got selected in Bihar Administrative Service, and she has been working as senior deputy collector. All right, and this year, along with a very hectic job, she secured a rank of 13, All India rank 13 in forest services, right? Her optional were geology and forestry, and like in her hobby she likes tracking and reading various books, right? So it will be very interesting and insightful to know her perspective on how she managed time, right? How she could do it with the job, right? Because we get a lot of queries from student ki how to manage time, right? Sometimes even full time preparing students struggle to manage time. So her wisdom of time management will be very helpful. So, and this is the mark sheet of Medha. I hope it is like visible. So she also has a decent score, right? With job she has managed 200 plus score in forestry, around 250, a very impressive score in geology, and I think she is the all India topper in English paper, right? Which a lot of people, when I gave IFS interview, like when I gave second time my IFS, means I missed the rank because of English paper. So English paper is like very important, vital, and like she has scored an outstanding 183, right? So here also like she could give her insight. So this is the basic overview. I welcome you both again. So we can begin with, I can pass it on to Medha, like just in the continuation. So Medha, I'll just stop this presentation here. Firstly, like some of you are very new, so I can introduce myself. I am Mayank Malviya, and I have with me Lawrence Kanyan sir. We both are graduate of IIT Roorkee, and we both are mentor and co-founder at Planet Geology. Right? We teach geology and some part of forestry also at Planet Geology. Right? So I would like give it to Mida, and Mida, you can now describe your journey, right? How it was. I just give a brief interview, and how was your 2023 attempt, right? What was the timeline? Please.
Hello, sir. First of all, thank you so much, Mayank sir, Lawrence sir. I owe a big part of my success this year to Planet Geology and the coaching itself. So when I started off in 2023, um, my preparation, the whole decision to even go for forest service was guided by Mayank sir. I called him at the initial stage only after immediately after prelims, and I told him, "Ki sir, I have zero clue about my optionals. I have opted for geology because I had geography as my optional in CS. So I went for geology, and similarly for forestry as well. So I think from there itself, my association with planet geology began, and I took both the comprehensive course in geology, which Lawrence sir has covered in immense detail. So that pretty much covered entire geology for me. And forestry also, I took the crash course that is offered on planet geology. So my entire optional was sorted here itself. And besides that, like, I only had to study on my own for general knowledge and general English. So in general English, uh, I will discuss my strategy briefly, but I do think that I was also a little bit lucky. I was not expecting such a good score. In fact, when I'd come out of my general English exam, I was disappointed. I thought I had not done well. But there are certain pointers that I will cover. So, sir, should I begin with prelims, or how
Uh,
should
uh,
I?
Maybe we can just allow Kavya to introduce, then we can begin with the maybe optional first, and then after you both cover optional, we can you can give your insights on prelims. Is it fine?
Yes, sure. Sure.
Okay, okay. Hello, Kavya.
Hello, Kavya.
Hi, sir. Good evening, everyone. Uh, so I am myself Kavya. So I this is my seventh attempt in UPSC civil service in the journey, but I had exhausted all the civil services attempts. This year I gave the attempt for the forest with the attitude that I have nothing to lose. That is why maybe I cleared the. Luckily, I cleared the forest cutoff, and after that, I also prepared for EPFO exams, which was scheduled during that time. So for 1 month, I did not prepare anything for the mains. After that, I took the coaching. I enrolled for the planet geology comprehensive course for geology. And then I contacted Mayan sir for the same, and he gave the overview and he gave which chapters to study and all those details, and I followed the same here. And during the courses, I followed all each and every classes thoroughly. And whatever the understanding I got about the geology is because of Lawrence sir and Mayank sir. I use those classes for understanding. At the same time, I use the revision classes given by the Mayank sir in order to memorize the topics and to reproduce it well. So this has helped me to score very good marks in geology, because understanding at the same time understanding and at the same time reproducing the same thing in the paper is a decisive factor, I feel. So that is why I scored good marks in geology. Forestry, I prepared on my own, and I used the YouTube videos and I read the Manikandan book. And here also I applied the same strategy to memorize everything and reproducing it. So that is why I got the good score in forestry also. And I already knew that English is my weaker area. So whatever I did is to get the decent marks. I did not do I did not go overboard because I knew that grammar will not be able, I will not be able to prepare whole grammar in 4 months. So that is why I focused on the major areas in English and GS. I was good in GS. From the past 4 years, I have been preparing for the civil services and also I have been writing the answers. So I did minimum whatever is required. So this is what my journey with respect to the mains.
All right. So yeah, I just want to ask you, like, I think you have a different option in CSE. So, like, what changed this year that you could do so well in return compared to the previous attempts?
And first of all, I gave mains in 2019, 1920. That was my first serious attempt where I did quite well in GS, not in optional, because I did not prepare well in optional. I went on to make it perfect. The preparation strategy, I went on to make it perfect rather than make it to the relevant to the exam. So that was a mistake I think I did during that year. So that is there I scored less in optionals. That was anthropology. That was around 210 or 220. This year I rectified that mistake and I studied mainly to focus on with the streamlining the preparation based on the PYQs. So I had always I had PYQs in front of my table, and during even watching the classes also I made sure PYQs are with me. So that is the one thing which helped me, I think.
All right, all right. So like just to start with optional, I just want to know your both की एक बहुत सारा common question है. Like we also with the Google sheet we put up a column कि उसमें people can ask their question. So a lot of people have asked कि how we should decide our optional, right? Especially like with Medha. So Medha has an graduation subject as physics, right? So you could have opted physics also. So for both of you, what was the reason for opting geology? Was it just here and say कि हाँ हर साल geology वालों से हो रहा है, or there was some other manner in which you selected geology and forestry?
So for me, actually, I had been considering a new optional for some time because geography was not working for me even in civil services. So I took into account a few factors. First of all, physics, because I completed my graduation a long time ago. Even if I had picked physics as an optional, I would have had to start from scratch. It was as good as preparing an optional from the very beginning, preparing a new subject. I don't think I would have had any sizable advantage in that respect. Maybe for someone who is currently pursuing their graduation, for them there is an advantage in taking the graduation subject. But I think for people like me uh, who have like spent a lot of time after completing their graduation, for them it does not make a lot of difference. So in the absence of that factor, I think what matters more is first of all, what subject do I have an interest in? Now, because I had studied geography for a long time, I knew that there were elements such as geomorphology, it's an entire topic which is in common. So I knew that there were certain things that would be similar. I also knew that there were certain things which would be different, which will make geology very technical for me, like especially like crystallography and those optical mineralogy, those topics. So what I did was, before picking the optional, I just tried to go through the syllabus एक बार roughly to understand कि मतलब कितना मुझे हवा लग रहा है देख के अभी. And after I read it, then I'll be able to make a better assessment. So you can just go through the syllabus once, try to understand based on your current knowledge if it is in alignment with your strengths. फिर मुझे ये भी समझ में आ गया कि geology is something that if I learn it properly, then I can do well. What's wrong with physics and all is if you get stuck in a problem, in a physics problem in exam, then there is no escape. Like you cannot really do anything about it. Once you've started attempting a question, then you're stuck there. And I have seen these issues even in like when I was doing my graduations. So I was wary of taking any optional that has a very good like substantial mathematical aspect. So that's why I felt like geology aligned with these things. And also, this was a big factor for me, sir, that the geology has performed well historically in the Indian Forest Service exam. So if I look at even UPSC releases these statistics, how many aspirants from a given optional have cleared. So I knew that geology was a good optional from that perspective as well. I think these are important factors. In addition, if someone is considering a third optional, they can also look at the fact ki whether or not you have specialized guidance available for that subject, especially if you're picking a new optional. A lot of technical optionals, they are very obscure and it becomes very difficult to find material, to find guidance, and too much time and effort goes into that. So I looked at all of these perspectives and I felt that geology for me was best suited given my circumstances, and also because I had a limitation of time. So I needed to be very judicious about my decision. So that is why I thought geology was a safe bet for me.
And Kavya?
Sir, whatever Medha told, my aspects were also on the same lines. Along with that, I wanted to add one more thing was peer group. So where when my friends, so few of my friends had cleared forest services last year and last year. So they also had similar optional geology and forestry, and I had the guidance from those people also. And that is one of the main factor along with whatever the Medha said. So, and same with me also, that geography, I had interest in geography, though I did not take it as an optional while preparing for the GS. So I was good at geography. So that is why I felt I could study geology with that mindset. So that is these two are the extra things which made me to take up geology. So
All right, all right. So,
Did
yes, Lawrence, sir.
Max, I had one question. Maybe, did either of you like rely on any book material for your geology preparation?
So, as per as I remember, I did not refer any other book except the part where you have mentioned in hydrogeology. There, I have mentioned I took up Bangar. Apart from that, I solely relied on class notes.
Okay.
So my answer is also the same. Just the classes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's good to know, because sometimes like students, even after going through classes, they have doubts like should they refer to any books or not, just because sometimes like they are worried kind of if they are not missing out on something. But it's good to know like you could like clear based on the content that you found in the course.
And actually you have read, actually in a way you have read all the standard books, right? Not only Bangar, because the course material is derived mostly from all standard book, right? So this is also a very common question, especially for those who are preparing through self study mode. So for every chapter there are 12 units in geology syllabus. For every chapter there is a specialized book, right? Ideally we have to read that not from page to page but selectively. So since we are geology graduates, so we have mined out content from those only. So now you can say that you have read book. If you will open any book, most of the things you would be knowing, right? So that is all right. Um,
I also I want to add one more thing is I did the mistake previously in civil services that apart from whatever the material it is which I had, I did not believe that I went on mining for the notes and the material. So I did that mistake before. So I initially when I started the course, I mentioned it to my answer the day one itself that this was the mistake I did here. I don't want to do the mistake. So I believed in one source and I wanted to keep it till the end. So that is why I did not shift to any other things.
Yes, I think that's very important. Not to like always keep expanding your sources. Sometimes like we kind of have that mentality, thinking maybe I will miss on something, or will chase like one odd question, and then okay, this question came from maybe this book, and then you think like okay, to be in safe side, I'll have to read this whole book in the future. So it is like, yeah, very important to stick to a strategy and not go on chasing unlimited resources.
like I think Kavya mentioned in her introduction that in this attempt she didn't went for perfection, right? So I think that is very important. Wisdom one should take for such competitive examination. Just extension of this discussion. Like in PYQs also, I know that there are certain questions which are very difficult in geology, right? Like 10%, 7%, 8% of them. Sometimes they are out of syllabus kind of a thing, especially when you read it first. So this question come to mind because just before the start of session I was reading the chat with Medha. So like Medha I think joined on 2nd of June, right? And Kavya messaged just 1 month later. She joined on 11th of July. So just when you started Medha, just after completing the first unit itself, आपने कुछ कॉन्ड्राइट और कुछ कुछ के ऊपर एक मुझसे सवाल पूछा था, डिफिकल्ट PYQ, right? So you said कि सर ये हो नहीं रहा है after going through classes. Then I told you कि भाई इसको geochemistry करने के बाद करना, right? So that was a specific question. But in general also sometimes maybe in mining geology, right? Sometimes right, maybe in economic geology they can ask some questions which are very difficult or which feels like we have not studied. So आपने भी ऐसा encounter किया ही होगा, right? So how did you chase them or you ignored them? Like what was your approach? uh,
So this is a very good example that you have cited. In fact, this was one of many occasions when you stopped me from making this mistake. This is my natural tendency. I tend to delve too deep into anything. And so every time I would read a topic, I used to look at the PYQs. But the good thing was that I would always ask, I would text Mayank sir, ki I'm not able to answer this or something, and he would Repeatedly, he stopped me several times and he said, "Ki, don't go into this. Keep moving forward." And that is also one of the reasons why I was struggling with syllabus completion, because it is again my natural tendency to go very deep into things, and I want to like take this opportunity to tell everyone that that's a very dangerous tendency. Please try and avoid that as far as possible. Like, our goal has to be to cover the whole syllabus once in a systematic manner, and then increase the number of times that we revise it. The deeper we go into something, it takes time away from revision, and the cost for that is enormous. So I just want to say ki it's okay. Like, if you are studying and if you have doubts, I would suggest again, you talk to your mentors, you talk to sir. They will tell you where you are, where your concern is valid and where you are just being very picky about things, because certain topics are difficult, and this is a new subject for all of us, and we are not trying to be experts. We are just trying to clear this exam, so we have to be very focused on the need of the exam itself. So it's, caution is very important. And I think that's where the role of mentors is important. You should ask them. If you feel that you're not able to answer a certain PYQ, is it because there is a lapse in your understanding, or is it because, maybe you are going too deep into it?
Along with that, I during whenever I face that issue, I also had in mind that the question has options. Out of 8 questions, we had to attend 5. So, and going through the past trend, there will be 1 or 2 questions of such kind. So where we had the option of writing the other kind questions, choosing the other question. So in that, that was a one more idea which I had in my mind, and I focused on that. So whenever I got those kind of questions, I thought I'll prepare whole syllabus once, and if I had to pick the question out of, like, leave that and pick the other question while writing the answer in the first go. So our time permits, go back to that topic and read about it. So these I had it in mind. So
All right. So like I just want to ask two more question on this thing. Like Suman is asking about covering prelims. Yes, Suman. Like we are just discussing about optional, and after that they will definitely talk on prelims, right? So like what I want to ask is, what was your timeline? I think Medha contacted on 2nd of June, right? So this is the best time. Today is also 1st of June, right? It is just 1 year from today. सो अभी भी ये लोग जो लोग अभी प्रीलिम्स देंगे उनमें से सम ऑफ देम वुड बी इन लाइन की आईएफएस का कट ऑफ निकलेगा, सीएससी का निकलेगा, तो व्हाट कुड बी द टाइमलाइन? आपकी क्या टाइमलाइन थी? बिकॉज आई रिमेंबर यू बोथ हैव कंट्रास्टिंग टाइमलाइन, सो दैट इज आल्सो अ लर्निंग कि भाई किसी की जो मतलब ऐसा नहीं होता कि सबको सेम टाइमलाइन स्टिक करना है, राइट? वन हैज अ जॉब, वन किसी के साथ दूसरा अपना वो थे डेमन्स जिनको फाइट करना था. तो आई थिंक मेधा शेयर्ड विद शेड्यूल टू विद मी कि उसका 25 अक्टूबर तक जा रहा था, राइट? देन आई सेड कि अरे इतना लंबा नहीं खींचना है, राइट? सो व्हाट वाज योर टाइमलाइन? एंड आई थिंक काव्या ने लेट स्टार्ट किया था जुलाई में, बट अराउंड आई थिंक अक्टूबर फर्स्ट वीक व्हेन क्रैश कोर्स पीपल वर स्टार्टिंग, यू मैसेज मी कि सर ऑलमोस्ट हो गया है बट कुछ याद नहीं रह रहा है, राइट? यू आर हैविंग सम एंजाइटीज. सो जस्ट टेल योर टाइमलाइन कि कब तक आपका ऑप्शनल खत्म हो गया इन टर्म्स ऑफ परसेंटेज, फिर कितनी बार रिवाइज किया टिल योर एग्जाम टाइम, राइट?
So, sir, I started my preparation in June, like you mentioned. Like, I joined the course in June, but like, work-wise, June was a very hectic period for me. So almost the entire month went away, and I did not have any progress. In fact, I remember I was still on general geology by the end of June. I had started there. So, and that was giving me anxiety. I realized that, my pace was very unsustainable. So I think that's why towards August and September, these 2 periods, I try to really focus and first of all finish all the major portions that I felt were difficult. In fact, I remember you gave me a list, and I have that list pasted over here, like the order in which we have to complete all topics. So I was following that order itself, and my goal was that by 25th of October, like this was the initial that I had prepared, that by 25th of October, I will finish everything. And you said that this is too late, and that it will not leave me any time for revision. So I revised it and I re-revised it, but it's still around. I finished my whole syllabus by mid-October, and that's when I was able to finally start with my preparation. But I would advise anyone who is preparing that, firstly, especially if you're working, then your time is not your own. You don't know when you will be, when you have a hectic phase, how much time you'll be able to take out on a daily basis. So it's very important that you try to make the most of the time that is available to you. So create these pockets of time which are sacrosanct. Don't let anyone else intrude on that time. It could be, after 5 p.m. or whatever, depending upon what your work schedule is. And the second thing that I feel is, very often, even when we are away from work and we are trying to focus, mentally we are not exactly focused on what we are studying. Like, your mental space is as important as the physical time that you have dedicated to your studies. So in order to like be completely focused, I think it's important to like cut yourself off for that period of time, like switch off your phone or something. Just make sure that you're both physically and mentally present when you're preparing, and it is very important, because without that continuity, nothing, it will feel like, what I studied yesterday I don't remember today, what I studied today I won't remember tomorrow, and then your concepts will not build, and you're trying to learn something that is completely new in a very short duration of time. So focus is extremely important. So I think, again, I planned things in a way that towards the end I was able to take out more time. So most of my preparation was concentrated towards the final months, and that made things slightly challenging for me, but still doable. I had to squeeze out time for forestry in a way, and then I had to squeeze out time for revision. I would suggest that ideally you should try to finish your syllabus by September, and then mid September at least, and then you have enough time to revise it, and you have time for your second optional also. If it starts spilling into the final month, then things get a little difficult. But in case you're working and in case you don't have an option, I want you to, take some motivation from my example that it's still doable. Even if you feel like, you've been pushed to the last seconds, it's still doable. It will take a lot of effort. It will take a lot of focus, but you can do it. That's
With respect to my case, I started in July. So I enrolled in July, second week of July, I think, to the classes. I started from there. Technically, I started from that time. So I finished it by, as Medha mentioned, I also finished it by October, mid of October. But it little different in my cases. Whenever I got bored of geology, that whenever it went monotonous, I switched to forestry. So I went through the free classes available in the YouTube, and I made notes out of those. And I kind of finished one paper for forestry, one paper in that time. So that gave me the confidence to that I will be able to finish the revision also and the forestry also by the end of uh, October or November mid. So that is a one extra thing which I did, that I squeezed in forestry optional along with the geology.
Okay, so you prepared both simultaneously, right?
Simultaneous, not with respect to the same phase. Whenever I got bored or exhausted with geology, I used to pick up forestry. So I did not waste that time of that productivity will be less when we start dragging or with the same topic or the same subject, the productivity will be less. That is why I used to switch to the forestry, and whenever I felt like I'm like now I am ready, and I used to go back to the geology. And during this time, I wanted to mention, because many of us will face these kind of issues. I messaged my sir also saying that I face the health issues during this time for 15 to 20 days. So during that time, I did not left the studies, but I picked up easier topics in geology. For example, geochemistry, environmental geology. These topics I picked up, and I started watching the videos and also making the notes. So this was my strategy.
Yes, Ashika, they are talking about the time after prelims, right? Maybe a month before the mains examination, right? What was their mental state and preparation state? So like, all right, so like you were also talking, you both were talking about forestry. So like there is also a lot of this common question, what optional we should opt for forest services. So you discussed about geology, the reasons, and another optional, like there are a lot of new people. So forestry is a very common optional. The beauty of it is it can be done in a very short time, right? कि जो सिविल सर्विसेज जैसा ऑप्शनल होता है वैसा नहीं होता है. That I still remember messaging Medha on first of, I keep used to message almost all the students जो मुझे लगता है कि they are preparing, they are serious कि भाई क्या status है. So Medha on first of November she told me कि sir I am yet to start forestry, right? So I thought कि अरे अब तो शुरू कर दो, like it is November and 25 नवंबर से आपका वो होने वाला है. But like he was very meticulous in her geology and वो पूरा momentum, like he said, she converted to forestry, right? Something like that. And same with Kavya, she managed forestry along with geology. So in general it is very difficult to manage two optional, but forestry is something which can be managed, so it is a very good optional for almost everyone, right? So you can always fill forestry as your second optional, right? That was the thing. So all right, and how many revision you both could have for geology in general and forestry in general?
Sir, with respect to geology, I technically from end to end, I revised 3 times after finishing the classes. But a few subjects or few topics which I revised as and when classes are done, and as and when I felt like I'm forgetting those topics. So while, for example, while covering mining geology, I was revising mineralogy and crystallography. So these kind of revision I planned it in between whenever I got bored. So, and I made short notes out of the class notes. So I revised that for, I think, 4 or 5 times. I revised those short notes which are very factual in nature. So technically from end to end I revised it 3 times.
Okay, so you both made your own notes also, or you like use some other notes from the course or something?
So I made my own notes, and for me, the way I covered it was I used to watch the sessions related to, say, one topic. Say if I'm studying metamorphic petrology, so I used to watch all videos related to that, and when I felt like I've understood the topic, then I would start making notes from the beginning. So in a way, in the process of covering the topic itself, I had covered it twice, and my notes were not something that I like Sir Lawrence sir is saying something and I'm writing. I used to try and write my notes on my own. So what helped was my notes were brief relatively, and it was a summary of just the key points that sir had mentioned. So I was able to say distill a 2 hour class by sir into 2-3 pages, and that was my whole objective in making notes, that it should be a distilled version of what sir has taught in class. So that was, but I will not count that as revision per se, because that was just me covering the syllabus. Once I had covered the syllabus, I was able to revise it twice. The first revision took a little bit longer. The second revision was much shorter, I would say. And in the process of the second revision itself, I made what you described second level notes, and what Kavya was just talking about. So those were essentially my D-Day notes. Ki, just before going for the exam, the last day I will flip through this sheet, and it was at max say 2-3 A4 sheets together, which will cover like an entire topic for me. And it just had all the important key points, the main diagrams, whatever I wanted to remember, whatever I had not been able to remember solidly up to that point. I had just included a summary of all of that in those pages, and then that's what I took with me to the center also, so I could just give them a glance over before walking in.
Yes, I think that's like a very good strategy overall, to make your own notes, because many times what will happen is like you may have like slides with you, and sometimes they will ask a very general question, very broad, and then you'll say, okay, like 15 slides will fit into this answer, and then like you'll say like, okay, half my page is finished with just like one slide. And then when you're making your own notes, it's also kind of it will be super useful when you are revising. That is important. And overall, like when you're learning something actively, it helps you overall grasp more. But also in the end, it also gives you kind of an idea of, when I'm writing a particular point, like how should I frame it? Do I have to like you sometimes you'll keep using filler words in between, and then you kind of like when you're making notes, you realize like they are not needed. 90% of the things I wrote is not even needed. So if I how can I be to the point and so making your own notes has several advantages like that. And that's like my advice to everyone who is on this call also, is don't shy away from making notes, because I've heard like many times students also say like, oh, notes making is a waste of time, it's taking too much time for me, I want to save that time. So that's not the right way to go about it. Maybe like you will find few students who can do well with that strategy, but overall, like from our experience, majority of the students benefit from making their own notes.
And actually, that is one of the reason why we don't make notes downloadable. So actually, whenever a student join, like they put a lot of pressure on us कि sir make it downloadable, right? आपका भी मन किया होगा कि यार ये downloadable क्यों नहीं बना रहे हैं? Because it makes your struggle even difficult, right? So we do understand, we till now we have not budged under the pressure. Initially so we don't give it for download, right? Later, like if we know the student is working hard, we do we do give a lot of notes for download also, through personally, through mail, right? But in general, this is a rule of thumb for the betterment of student कि भाई इससे they will struggle, at least they will write something, right? वही याद होने वाला है, वरना फिर एग्जाम में ना बड़ी दिक्कत होती है. जैसे कि आई ऑल्सो रिमेम्बर, एंड इट इज ऑल्सो लाइक इम्पॉर्टेंट टू डिस्कस कि हाउ डिड यू डील विद मेंटल स्ट्रेस. लाइक आई हैव टू पीपल, वो दोनों से मेरी बात होती थी. आई थिंक मेधा के साथ ना टाइम की कमी थी कि शी डिडंट हैव टाइम टू बी स्ट्रेस्ड. ठीक है, उसका स्ट्रेस चलता था कि यार सिलेबस खत्म हो जाए. तो मेनली ये जद्दोजहद होती थी, इसलिए स्ट्रेस तो था, याद करना है, रिवाइज करना है, राइट. काव्या ने थोड़ा पहले सिलेबस किया था, बट आई थिंक आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर काव्या कॉलिंग मी कि सर ऐसा लग रहा है कि सब भूल गई मैं, है ना, मैंने रिवीजन भी किया है. एंड आई थिंक दिस वाज वेरी लेट नवंबर. सो ये कॉमन होता है, इट वाज नॉट ओनली विद काव्या, विद अ लॉट ऑफ अदर पीपल, दे आल्सो गॉट गुड, वेरी गुड मार्क्स, राइट. तो ऐसा एक फील आता है कि आप हर चीज भूल भूल रहे हो जियोलॉजी में, यू आर नॉट एबल टू रिकॉल. सो इफ यू like Kavya made her own notes, Medha made her own notes, तो इसी कारण से you could replicate and score like 70% of the marks out of 100, right? Right. So that is the thing. So in other, like इसी चीज को if we carry on कि how you both deal with this mental pressure of preparation. Sometimes there is also fatigue. So Kavya के I think your CSE attempts are over despite giving an interview, वहाँ नहीं हुआ unfortunately. So all these things put a pressure cooker on our head. So like what was your strategy, what do you want to suggest to other student to how to deal with this such things, right?
Sir, if I say that in a short, I already did my work with respect to the mental pressure and stress in the previous year. So, or Rona Dona, like all those things, I had finished it. So this year, I think I cleared mainly because one, I was logical with respect to the preparation and the and with the answer writing or whatever it is. But with that also, I faced the issue of anxiety for not remembering the stuff in geology. Even in forestry also, I was not able to, even after the revision, I was not able to recollect those things. So during that time, I used to talk to either you or as I mentioned, few of my friends who were cleared previous year. So I used to talk to them that like during this time, like before 1 month, what was your a stage? Were you able to recollect stuff? Were you able to write it? So I used to compare with them that okay, I used to think that okay, I'm in better place than those people. Or the next step I used to do is write it. So take a PYQ and try to write it. So whenever I try to write it, whatever, even if I'm able to reproduce 50% of the topic which I have read, so that used to give me a cushioning that I am able to recollect the whatever I read and I'm able to reproduce. So in the future, after revising 2 or 3 times, I'll be able to reproduce it well in exam. So this was my strategy towards this revision and mental pressure which I faced during the revision time, and talking to friends and family. So those were the main pillars during my preparation. So they were always the support system. So I never left the contact with the friends who were from non UPSC, that during the school friends or my colleagues in my office. So those people that those people were really helpful during that period of mental stress.
Medha?
Yes, sir. So in my case, my biggest, I would say, stress factor was that I felt like my syllabus would never get over. If I was like in the middle of an ocean with no shore at all. So there were many occasions when I used to think, I was very upset with myself for picking geology as an optional. But I think in moments like that, I used to speak to you and I used to speak to other friends like Kavya mentioned. So, having a good support circle is very important because they keep you going. So everyone was so optimistic and their optimism sort of, it had an effect on me. It made me feel better. It kept me going. So, it's like at one point you're like, "कि जब आप ओखल में से डाल ही दिया है तो मुंह से क्या डरना?" And you keep going, you keep going, and then eventually everything, you finish the topics, you finish the syllabus. And as and when, I felt that with my progress, I was becoming more and more confident because I had been very diligent in the way I was covering my syllabus. So I never had this fear that anything that I have studied I will forget in exam. Like I had this much confidence in myself that I have the notes that I have prepared, I am capable of revising them within 1 to 2 days, and once I've revised it, I'll write it. So I was not worried about that aspect. So for me, it was like I just have to make sure that I do this justice to every topic of the syllabus. There's nothing that I leave behind, and I had to do that for forestry as well as geology. So over a period of time, also because of work, and when we take time away from work, there is always a guilt that builds in you. That you're neglecting your work also. So I knew that I had the best way to do justice to everything was that, like, right now, if I'm doing my preparation, I want to be 100% focused on my preparation. I like this has to be the center of my universe. So I used to work in a very hyper focused way to finish everything that I wanted to finish in the way that I wanted to finish within the timeline that I had kept for myself. So just by keeping these small goals, कि ठीक है, by the end of today, I will be done with this. And just achieving these small goals used to give me that boost which I needed to sort of keep going. And yeah, and overall having a positive setup, like speaking to your parents or speaking to sir, speaking to people who have cleared this exam, who have a positive influence on you. I think that is also very, very important. It just makes you makes sure that you don't lose your momentum halfway through.
Right. Right. So these are very important aspect, right? Like this. Uh, Also about forestry, like you took crash course, right? So the crash course of planet geology is like very much focused towards exam, right? वो 50-60 घंटे का है. I think Apurv sir has taught it, and some part we have taught it. So like what apart from that, what was your strategy? कि paper one पे ज़्यादा focus किया. Even Kavya, you have one of the highest marks in forestry, right? So in that way also कि आप लोगों का फोकस कहाँ था, लाइक पेपर वन इज मोर टेक्निकल, पेपर टू इज मोर जर्नलिस्टिक, so how did you approach forestry? Can you tell on it?
So in my case, when I was covering forestry, I was looking at the previous year questions, and I had Apoor sir's notes with me, and I used to keep matching. So in the way that he has covered the course, he used to tell he this topic, for example, improvement felling. This is an important topic. Like you covered silvicultural practices. So those are important topics. So whenever I used to get the disclaimer, this is an important topic, I would make sure that I write something on my own for this. Like for this topic, I do it myself. Forestry, I think, is a much easier option compared to geology because it's not that technical. There are many things. If we have like read it once properly and we've highlighted it in our notes and all, then we can reproduce it with uh, well enough in exam. But then certain aspects in forestry, I think, like silvicultural practices, and later on, I think related to seed orchards and improvement breeding, those topics, those were slightly technical. So for that, I had my own notes. And then there were some topics in forestry where I was, my main goal was that I will do this baseline of work. if this question comes, then I'll do it. And otherwise, I will be happy with not doing this question as well. And over here, I used to focus mainly all the species, the list of species that is there, and their phenology and their periods. All that becomes very, very difficult to memorize everything. So I used to keep very basic idea कि इसका spring में है, like flowering is in spring season, तो मैं roughly उससे बिठा दूंगी, and something like that. The areas also, if this is a deciduous tree, then these are the areas it will be found. So I had a very broad approach over there. I tried not to go into the details because I knew that that is something I will never be able to remember, like in intricate detail for all species. So just by having these broad patterns, I think I had an approach ki, theek hai, like I may not do great in this, but I will do well enough to serve my purpose, and that was my basic strategy.
With respect to my forestry preparation is I relied on YouTube videos which are freely available in YouTube. Freely available. I went through those videos and I made notes out of it. And along with that, I started to study Manikandan. So I studied diligently Manikandan. Along with that, I had, as I mentioned previously, for geology, for forestry also, I had PYQs in my table. And as and when that one topic gets over or beforehand only, I used to see what are the topics which came and how many times it got repeated and where to focus. So these were my criteria to pick it up the very important things and leave out the non-important things in the Manikandan book. And if it comes to Manikandan book, everything which is written are one or the other way are PYQs only. So that way I covered for the forestry. But for the forest management part, I was not able to understand from the book because some of the derivation from that book for the calculation of NGS, all those parts were like a bit haphazard. For that, one of my friend who also has graduated from forestry, so he had one book which is for the forest management. He shared it. So when I went through that, it was logical for me to understand and properly that sat in my mind. So that that forest management book, that maybe that helped me to score better in the second paper. Along with that, in whatever I read in the Manikandan, I made sure that I remember everything. For example, that there was one question in composite wood, the second paper. So in that I was able to properly write all the types of composite wood along with the examples with the scientific name. So this way I made sure these are the very often repeated questions. So these type of questions I made sure I remember the content and I had to reproduce it. Sometimes I used to put it on a paper in a way that we used to do it in school, that read it and write it once again closing the book. These kind of approach also I applied it in geology also and even in forestry.
All right. So like you had a score of 138 in forestry paper 2, one of the highest, right? Generally people struggle in paper 2. So you attempted 3 questions from part A or part B, if you can recall.
2 questions from part A. One is calculation of NGS, which I was very sure of it. That was there. In the second question, there was a question related to CII and MAI. So that was also, I remember that graph and everything, I remembered that. So that is why from part 1, 2 technical questions, and even in part 2, part B, so I attempted that composite wood question because I was sure that I remember everything, even the particle wood and for them the examples. So there was very less chance to deduct the marks. So that is why I focused more on forest management and those kind of derivations where the scope for deducting the marks is less. So that is where maybe that is why I got good marks in second paper. My 10 marker was I think I attempted first the 20 marker questions and 15 marker for the forestry paper 2 only, and 10 markers I think I did not do that. I did not give justice that much, that which I gave it in 20 marker and 50 markers. Still those content I had already with respect to each and every question. I did not leave out any question, and even the content also I knew beforehand. I did not cook up any stories there.
All right, all right. So basically, three question from part B, part A.
Yes.
That is why. All right, all right. So I think Lawrence sir, we can open it for all the student to ask the question. Like before
Yes.
that, I know a lot of question will be from prelims. So you both like prelims is a vast domain and it is the hottest domain क्योंकि 15 दिन बाद paper भी है. So like I have a lot of question here कि like most of them are on the line कि IFS का cut off कैसे clear करें, right? That is the thing. And how many question we should attempt? How many question did you attempt to clear the IFS cutoff? And in like something online. So please share the brief whatever you want to share about prelims. Then we will open it up for the students. You can ask your doubt. Both ma'am will answer, right?
Sir, if it comes to the prelims, till 2021, I was not able to clear the forest cutoff. I never cleared. And in 22, I was clearing the forest cutoff, but I failed in CSAT. My score was 65.82. So from 2022 and 2023, my strategy towards prelims was little different. Here I focused more on writing the full length test, and not I did not focus on the marks which I am getting in the full length test. I focused on the each and every question. So there I categorize the question where there are conceptual question or factual or vague questions which comes from nowhere. So that kind of categorization I did, and I made sure I am not going to make even a single mistake in my conceptual part where everybody gets it right. Or so that in that way, I think I was able to score better, because in the previous attempt, if I recollect, in 2021 attempt, so there I was going through anxiety issues and all such mental health issues. There I made a 14 silly mistakes, because of which I did not clear the prelims. So that silly mistake part cost more, like 1 year or so, for the aspirants, not just for me. For many people, even one silly mistake cost a year. So I made sure that I'm not going to do such silly mistakes. So that, and the next comes the PYQs. Till 2021, I used to go through PYQs, not in a way that which has to be done. So from 2022 onwards, my strategy towards PYQs were changed. That every day I used to go through, at least in last 1 month, I used to go through minimum 20 PYQs a day, so that I should get the language of UPSC in my head. And in the last 1 week, I never touched these institutes ka full length test or any test. Last 1 week, my strategy was take up one PYQ and sit 1.5 hour, not 2 hour, 1.5 hour. And because we have already came across those such kind of already PYQs, we have solved it. So that paper and sit and solve those PYQs and not make single mistake. It has to be like 100. I have to get 100 questions correct, because we had gone through the PYQs. And if I make any mistake, I used to go back to the concepts and revise the concept from my original book, not from any coaching institute summary or anything. I used to go back to my notes and revise the stuff. And my strategy, and one more thing was, I stick to basics in these 2 years. And your last 1 month or so, I did not go to any new sources. Not because I'll not be able to remember or I'll not be able to recollect, mainly because that new sources create anxiety. Here, prelims is all about mental game. That I understood in the last 2 years. It is like more we will be able to score better. So that is why I scored good in prelims these last 2 years. And main thing, I did not clear CSAT in the last 2022 was because of the anxiety only, because the previous day I did not sleep, thinking that this is my last attempt. What will happen if I don't clear? Because of that, by the afternoon, I was exhausted, and I was not able to focus on even the passages. And passages were my strength. My passage accuracy is 85 to 90%. So there I did mistake in passages. In the hurry, I solved around 41 questions. and I used to solve around 45. In last, I was 50-50, skeptical about whether to attempt the CSAT, those two question in passages or not. And those two were assumption based questions. And I knew I am my weak area in passages is assumption. So I left it to my luck and marked those two questions, and then my luck backfired. So if I hadn't marked those two questions in the last with that anxious mode or anything, if I would have been conscious, I would have cleared the previous CSAT. So I would say that prelims is about mental game in the last 15 days. More the calmer you are, there is better chance you will clear IFS cutoff, even more than the cutoff, like 10-15 marks more than the cutoff.
All right, all right. Kavya? Okay, Medha, please.
Yes, sir. So I agree with so many points which Kavya mentioned, and my experience has been similar. I think that for prelims, once you sit in that exam, once you start writing, this is probably the most important suggestion I can give to anyone. Please be extremely confident. Like, I cannot tell you, like, you can doubt your abilities till the time where you're preparing, but when you go to give that exam, you have to be confident कि whatever you needed to do, whatever you needed to study, whatever you needed to revise is done. उससे ज्यादा ना तो करना था और ना करने की जरूरत है. With your level of preparation, the best you can do, that is your goal, and that's all. And so I have received this question several times from aspirants as well, like how to prepare for prelims, particularly because for forest services, the cutoff is almost 20 marks higher now. And in my opinion, it is the biggest stumbling block for most aspirants. So I would say that, of course, we always begin any preparation by looking at the previous year questions. So I have all previous 10-year questions with me. And even before I read the books or revise the books, I read the PYQs every single time. Just the whole purpose of reading all PYQs is to understand the need of the exam. कि किस तरह के questions आ रहे हैं. The pattern changes with time. So, it's important to read the PYQs, see which areas are more important, and the human brain is very good at identifying patterns. If you have read 10 PYQs, you yourself will identify patterns that these topics are important. Buddhism, Jainism is important. In case of geography, rivers are important, tributaries are important, the places they flow through is important. These patterns will emerge to you on your own. And I suggest that every aspirant do this by themselves instead of relying on someone else's analysis. And the reason why I say this is because we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And the goal of this analysis is to identify कि आपको दिक्कत कहाँ पे आएगी और आपका कौन सा aspect पहले से strong है. So you don't have to worry as much about it. So once you've done that, then you do your revision. There is no substitute to the fundamental books of CS. You have to read those books. आपको पॉलिटी के लिए लक्ष्मीकांत तो रिवाइज करनी ही है, or whatever the books that you have. You can follow a specific book list. Do not proliferate your sources. जो आप पढ़ रहे हो उसी को पढ़ो, उसी को रिवाइज करो, बट सभी को कर लो. सारे टॉपिक्स के लिए, जैसे पॉलिटी के लिए आप अपना पिक कर लो. For example, for polity, I did Lakshmikant. For modern India, I did Spectrum. तो मेरे बुक्स फिक्स्ड हैं, मैं यही बुक्स पढ़ती हूँ, इन्हीं को रिवाइज करती हूँ एवरी सिंगल टाइम, एंड देन नथिंग डिसाइड्स दैट. सो दैट मच इज डन. And then once I'm done with this revision, then the next and the most important part is practice, like Kavya said. So I think this part gets neglected because people keep reading till the end. And I have always felt that prelims is not a test of knowledge. Prelims is, in case of prelims, the answer is already in front of you. So you have to train your instincts to identify that answer. You don't, sometimes even knowing what is not the answer will give you the answer. So it is that kind of a game. So for that, practice is very, very important. I tried to do as many mocks as I could. So I used to take a few mocks, जैसे मैंने vision का मान लीजिए test series ले लिया. So even if I'm in office and it does not take 3 hours to attempt the GS paper, you can finish it off in 1 hour also. So whatever time you get, you just keep attempting those questions. And when you are doing mocks, I would suggest that you attempt all questions, all of them. The purpose for this is it will show you how accurate your guesses are. Because when in exam, after a point of time, like say there are X number of questions that you know for sure. Then in addition to that, you will attempt say 15-20 questions where you're not 100% sure, where you will use some deduction, use some amount of guesswork. So for this part, it is important that you know how how your accuracy is. For example, I knew for a fact कि medieval India or like anything which is very very factual, उसमें my guesses never work. तो मैं तो पहले से ही when I saw the paper, I knew कि ये वाले तो questions मुझे नहीं करने हैं. And it's fine, just knowing कि आपको क्या नहीं करना is also very very important. This is such an exam where even if you get like 50% of the questions right and you don't attempt anything else, that is good enough, right? So for like, even if you look at the cutoff, that is a good enough score to clear the cutoff. So you can have that as a strategy, knowing what to attempt and knowing what not to attempt. These are both very important aspects, and you will understand this through mocks. कि आपका कहाँ पे कहाँ पे अच्छा आप गेस कर पा रहे हो, कहाँ पे आपका नॉलेज जो है ना, योर lateral knowledge is good, you are able to make connections. Like we have all these strategies कि whenever you get extreme sentence, जैसे this never happens or this always happens, those sentences are usually wrong, and मतलब it's a thing that comes with time. And then we always look at the etymology of words that is given. That will also give you the answer. Like I was reading about this kharai camel. So kharai camel, uske naam mein hi khara hai. So from there you get like salt marshes and everything. Like I'm just trying to give examples here. Ki the more mocks you do, it expands your lateral thinking. तो उसके बाद आपके गेसेस की एक्यूरेसी इंप्रूव कर जाएगी, एंड इट विल आल्सो टेल यू कि इतना मैं गेस कर सकता हूँ, और इसके बाद करूंगा तो माय नेगेटिव मार्क्स विल पाइल अप. So I think this is a subtle art, and which is why I personally I like prelims and I like preparing for it. It's kind of my favorite part of the preparation because it's like a game, and it's very quick, and it is something that just जो कि आप कभी भी कर सकते हो, आप ऑफिस में कर सकते हो. If you're traveling, you can do it on your phone, and it's fine. And all of this is going to help you. And another thing I feel is the anxiety factor, which Kavya mentioned. That's very pertinent because I'll tell you the difference. When I started इस बार जब 2023 पेपर आया and I started attempting, in my first page only there were like bunch of questions जो कि मुझे नहीं आ रहे थे अच्छे से, and I got nervous and I was like कि यार ये तो सारी मेहनत खराब and everything, and I started going into that state of mind. And then after like first page मैंने कर दिया, and then I was on my second page and I realized what I was doing, that I was I was essentially having a low key panic attack. So I paused for a minute and I thought about it and I calmed myself down. Then I went back to the questions that I attempted. There were questions there which I knew and I had done them wrong. And then I went back to it and I corrected it, and then I moved forward. Matlab, I'm sure many of you will remember, there was a question related to what is beta in finance. And I am an MBA finance, but I got that question wrong. And then I went back to it and I corrected it, and then I moved forward. So it's very important, when you're calm, when you're confident, and that is the state of mind that you want for this exam. Things will come to you in a way that you would not have expected. चीजें जो आपने 4 साल पहले पढ़ी होंगी, कहीं आपने मैगजीन में देख लिया होगा, that will also come to you. It will come in a indirect way, और फिर आप उसे कुछ guess कर लेंगे, which will help you. And so for that, it is very important, one, that you've practiced, and second, that when you walk into that exam, you go in full confidence. You're like कि ठीक है, जो तैयारी करनी थी कर ली. Do not doubt yourself in that moment कि यार और revision कर लेता, इन्होंने तो और कर लिया, मैं उतना नहीं पढ़ पाया. All that is gone. That story is over. Nothing matters. Only what you write on that day of the exam. That is all that matters. So that is my suggestion.
All right, like lot of important wisdom for the prelims, right? So I can sum it up for you all. Ki like one thing is important is PYQs. It is important, like Kavya said, कि UPSC की जो भाषा है, language है, it is important कि वो हम उससे वो रहे, not coaching institute की भाषा. Obviously confidence is the key. Linkages, like Medha mentioned, कि है ना, कहीं का भी knowledge काम आ सकता है. So we should have very good linkages, and most important is know thyself, at the great Greek wisdom कि भाई what is your accuracy, what topics you are likely to do well, and where you are likely to do negative. So ये सब very important है, right? And I think like I also fortunately used to do good in prelims, so I was also like she was saying का कि ट्रैवल करते हुए ऑफिस में आई कुड रिलेट विद इट, क्योंकि मैं टेस्ट ऐसे ही सॉल्व करता था कि ऑफिस है, बीच में लंच होता है, गवर्नमेंट में लंबा लंच हो जाता था 1 घंटे का, तो मैं 1 घंटे में टेस्ट लगा लेता था. सो ऑल दिस काउंट्स, राइट? सो बट एग्जाम वाले दिन होता है ना, कॉन्फिडेंस की बात है, तो आई हैव सीन दिस कि दोज हु आर कॉन्फिडेंट, जेन्युइनली कॉन्फिडेंट, जिन्होंने मेहनत किया है, दे स्कोर 20-30 मार्क्स मोर देन कट ऑफ. सो जेन्युइन कॉन्फिडेंस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. और मेरा तो एक सिंपल सा फंडा था कि व्हेनेवर आई यूज्ड टू गो टू प्रीलिम सेंटर, मैं मॉर्निंग में क्राउड देखता था कि अच्छा 200 लोग हैं, 500 लोग हैं, तो डोंट थिंक कि भाई 3 लाख लोग दे रहे हैं, उसमें 500 में 1000 में आना है टू क्लियर फॉरेस्ट कट ऑफ. जस्ट थिंक कि दिस इज द एग्जामिनेशन सेंटर. इन 500 में मैं अगर टॉप 3 में आ जाऊंगा, आई विल क्लियर आईएफएस कट ऑफ, राइट? इट विल होल्ड ट्रू फॉर एनी यूपीएससी में तो टॉप 50 में भी आ जाओगे तो भी हो जाएगा, राइट? सो समथिंग लाइक दैट. सो जस्ट कुछ चैनल्स फॉलो करो कि जो यू कैन they can calm you down, right? So this is thing we can open the session, Lawrence sir, we can open it for all to ask questions.
Yes, we can.
So okay, so like there is an option of raising hand, so please raise hand, right? ये जो 3 डॉट के बगल में जो ऑप्शन है, and then please ask your questions. So Suraj, you can ask.
हाँ सर. I just want to ask the both of ma'am, how can we prepare the current affairs, because it is very vast subject, and every time or every day it is useful to read the newspaper thoroughly, or we can just cover up in the any kind of magazine like
So, so my suggestion, Suraj, would be please follow one newspaper religiously. Like you asked, I personally have never found compilations very useful. It's my personal experience. मेरा कभी एक भी क्वेश्चन किसी भी compilation से नहीं बना है. But newspapers are far more helpful, and I'll tell you why. Because firstly, when you read every day, then the story builds in your head gradually, and your ability to retain and recall from that is much more. And also I think it becomes matlab aap daily padhoge to it will not feel as much of a burden. Like all of us have apps now, yeah, kahin pe bhi. So you just dedicate say half an hour, 1 hour every day ki I'm going to do this. It feels like a break only. Reading newspaper is not a very tedious task. Or किसी भी newspaper में again you don't have to read it end to end. Not all articles are important, and as you like as you prepare with time, you will realize कि क्या क्या चीजें हैं जो skip कर देनी है. Entertainment, sports, or all of that is completely skippable. No need to give it a second glance. Things that are core politics also completely skippable. So उसमें बस 2-3 ही चीजें होंगी. Like in any given day, you will not have a lot of articles that are very relevant to you. आप बस उसको पढ़िए. And what I would do is, again, क्योंकि most of my reading used to happen while I was commuting or on the move. So on the phone itself, I used to make very small summaries. Only if I used to feel कि ये article बहुत important है, इसका मैं case study डाल सकती हूँ कहीं पे, या this is something that I want to revise later. Because otherwise, what will happen over 1 year? So you will read 365 newspapers, and then on the day of prelims, you will not remember even 30 of them. So there's a waste of time. So it's better कि if you like something and you read it, तो आप उसको कहीं पे just 3-4 lines, summarize it in your own words, include only the keywords in it, and write it, and just keep it for posterity. This will help you so much. This will help you in GS, it will help you in GK, it will help you in prelims. I cannot tell you this. Just the act summarizing is very helpful. और रेगुलर पढ़ने से मतलब बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस जो है ना, even if you have missed it in today's newspaper, you catch it again in tomorrow's newspaper. तो in a way आपका complete हो जाएगा preparation. religiously किसी को follow करो. और बाद में अगर कई बार ऐसा होता है कि people don't feel confident. उनको लगता है कि मैंने बीच का तो न्यूज़पेपर छूट गया था, मेरा 10 दिन का छूट गया था, ये वो, so how will I do it? Later on, you can when preparation is close, then you can look at say dedicated compilations ki is week ka ek baar dekh liya, to jo chhota उसमें से जो भी छूट गया है, you can catch from that. तो that is sort of a last resort कि अब कुछ नहीं तो ये पढ़ लिया. But if you have time and if you can do it, reading a newspaper religiously is always the better option. That's my suggestion.
Even I agree with Medha. So, for one of the example, which is last year prelims, there was something related to Volbachia. So, which came 3 years back in the newspaper. I had made notes out of it, and so I used to add it to the same book which I had made the notes. So I was revising it last year, and that question came. And even with respect to something related to export was there. So that was also came in the newspaper, and it was repeated 3 days continuously. So that is where I was confident that the fact which they had given us was wrong. So the newspaper helps you to revise the content also, that sometimes it gets repeated. So I completely agree with Medha.
Actually, I just want to final, ma'am. It is very necessary to write down the notes from newspaper. Just you should make your self notes after reading a newspaper is necessary.
So I think it is necessary for many of the people, because revision is necessary. We will tend to forget. Well, like there will not be any outcome if you read the newspaper and leave it. So without revision, the effort which you had spent for 1 hour or so will go in waste. So that is why she highlighted that make a notes in such a way that you will be able to revise it in 1 or 2 sentences. So that would suffice, I think.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, both of you.
Ashika?
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you, mentors, for bringing this amazing session for us, and congratulations, you both. So, my question here was, yeah, I was very, it was very intriguing to know that you were able to cover like the whole syllabus within the span of like 3 months, because more or less it's the resources that are available for like forest aspirants is very less. So more or less people clear the prelims and then they step into like, okay, we'll prepare for both the optional, so on and so forth. So was it that the case with you, like you were keeping your preparation fully fledged to the forestry perspective, or were you like balancing between both CSC as well as IFoS?
With respect to my case, I fully focused on forestry, as I was not writing for the civil services. So, my whole 4 months was dedicated only for the forestry. I think same with Meda also.
Yeah.
So was it an year earlier, or like, because that is the notion that is set, that you have to write the mains answer writing, keep yourself prepared, complete the main syllabus prior to your prelims and all that. So was it that the case, or
So
This one, we did not. We started studying after clearing the prelims. We started enrolling to the courses, and we started studying. And but all time we were fully focused on the uh, forest, and we were fully focused on forest, and we were revising in such a way that, or we were preparing in such a way that we could complete the syllabus and we will be able to reproduce it. That is where we mentioned about the PYQs, and also we were writing the answers of those PYQs. I was writing the answers for those PYQs.
okay, yes, and
yeah, so Shika, I agree with what Kavya said. And what you're trying to understand is whether this period between prelims and the mains exam, whether that is sufficient or not.
right,
Right? So
yeah,
yeah, it's more than sufficient. That's what I would say. Like in fact, we were not able to dedicate the entire time because of our own personal constraints. Like Kavya joined from 1st of July, and I also could not start until later. So even then, we started our optionals from scratch at that phase, and we completed it before the mains exam. So that duration in itself is sufficient.
okay,
You can also check the UPSC calendar, right? In forest
right,
services means we get 5 months time, and but for CSE, what you were mentioning, it is more relevant because I think if you don't complete your optional before prelims, at least part of it, then it become actually difficult, because these years UPSC is giving only 110 days. This year I think 15 days will be even less. So in that
Yes.
way, in for CSE it is good to prepare your option beforehand. For forest you can definitely manage like they both did.
Yes. And one more question here. I am sorry to ask too many. Sir, is the geology for forestry even relevant to the CSC geology? The optional that we have for CSC as well?
Yes, yes. Like I can answer
Yes.
this key. Yes, Lawrence sir, please.
Yeah, yeah. The syllabus is almost same for both. The questions, if you look at PYQs, they're also like mostly similar. Actually, the forest syllabus is a little bit, like not much, just a very little bit more extensive than your CSE, than your geology optional for CSE. So there are few topics, actually, especially in paleontology, where you can save a significant portion of time when you're preparing for CSE. But overall, the students you'll be competing against in CSE, so because there are like so many students, your answer quality has to be a little bit better, so it is less forgiving than I would say IFS. Over.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Yes. And thank you, you too, for answering the questions.
Samakshi, you want to ask anything?
Yes, sir. So thank you for the session and congratulations to Kavya ma'am and Medha ma'am. My question is, sir, that should we be prepared? How should we prepare for the English paper in for forest service? I'm asking from the perspective of appearing for the exam in 2025. But I had prepared. I had given CSE mains in 2023, and the essay paper did take considerable preparation. So, given that the English paper in Forest Service is more scoring, should we and how should we start the preparation for that for the 2025 attempt at the moment?
So, Samakshi, I would say do not compare the essay question that you have in English with the essay paper that you have in civil services. The the sort of preparation that goes into the two and what is expected is also very different in both scenarios. In my personal experience, when I felt ki in case of civil services, when we prepare for essay, we are extremely focused on our content. There is an effort by aspirants to squeeze in as many GS related points into this, but that is not the intention in English paper. In English, when you write your essay, the point is to write something which is coherent. There is a logical flow to it, and it should be written in a way that comes across as being readable and of high quality. What I mean by that, I'll tell you. So when I wrote the essay, I focused on two three things. First of all, I wanted to make sure that my language is very simple. I keep my language, my sentence structure, everything should be simple. It should flow in a manner that the examiner can easily understand what I'm trying to write. I included some quotes, like, and I think this is very important because when you include quotes from, say, famous authors, like I always cite Rabindranath Tagore and his where the mind is without fear. There are these lines, I'm sure you remember. So I used to use that in my conclusions, and you have Victor Hugo quotes by him. So I try to incorporate quotes into my essay so that the candidate comes across as being well read. I think that is also something that is valued in an English paper. Do not try to squeeze in too many points. We have this structure that we have been taught in CSE का ऐसे पेपर कि social के इतने हैं, economy के इतने हैं, polity के इतने हैं, environment के इतने. I feel like that is not organic. Don't do that. Only put points that are relevant to the topic that has been asked. And once again, for English, if you look at the pattern, if you look at the previous year questions, you will find that some topics are always there. They're frequently repeated. There is always, I feel, a question related to environment. And then there's always a question related to education. These are very commonly asked questions. So what you can do is you can prepare an intro and a conclusion for them beforehand. So whatever you write in exam can be a variation of this, depending upon ki kis tarah ka question aata hai. So you can have some variation of this you can use in your essay paper, and this will allow you to bring some quality into it. And apart from that, if you have to make a comparison between forest service and civil service, so I will say कि जो English का qualifying paper होता है civil services में, that is closer to what is expected in this English paper than the essay paper itself. So I hope, like, with respect to essay, at least your concerns are cleared.
Yes, yes, that is helpful. So should we start essay writing now itself for the forest service, keeping those kind of topics and themes in mind, or should we wait till we have like the prelims result?
That actually depends on you. Like, it does not take a lot of time in itself. To be frank, I did not dedicate a lot of time for English in my preparation because, as it is, I could not wrap up geology. So geology was taking so much time that I had very little time for anything else. So even so, if you're comfortable with English language, if you've been writing essays, then I would say it is okay if you do it next year. No worries. It is not something which needs a lot of practice. It is a judgment that you'll have to make on your own about your essay writing abilities.
No, thank you, Madam. Kavya ma'am, like, do you also second the opinion, or was your approach different with respect to this?
My approach was also same as Medha mentioned. That I did not write essays beforehand, but I knew I wanted to make sure that my flow and the coherence is fine. So I wrote 2 or 3 essays 15 days before the exam. That's it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Like one thing I can make out from it is that कि in English के paper में it is not GS वाला knowledge but more English की how coherently we are writing, how good English we are speaking, how less grammatical mistakes we are making, right? These also count because I remember like once I missed the IFS final rank by 3 marks, right? In that year my English score was 129 when everybody else was scoring 160, right? And before that year I scored 162. So in that year what mistake I did was कि there was a paragraph on plantation, right? So they said कि plantation करने के पहले these are 1 2 3 4 steps कि pit बनाना है, रेत निकालना है, then कैसे इसको लगाना, इस तरह का था. And the question was कि how what are the steps for plantation. So I summarized whatever they wrote, but I don't know why I also made a diagram in English comprehension का answer, right? So see उसके कारण कम नंबर नहीं आए होंगे, but there might be definitely other reasons also. So do not do a lot of innovation in English paper. That is also a suggestion, well, based on my experience. Otherwise it is manageable, quite manageable. And like Kavya mentioned ki comprehension CSET ki are getting difficult. So if you read newspaper for current affair also, so there also I think you can observe how the author is writing, how they are linking. All those things ultimately will fall in place for English paper also, right?
To add to this, if you want to make sure that you are managing the time or you are able to write it better, so take a previous year paper, and before the exam, 1 month or something. So write 1 or 2 English papers so that you will prepare even writing precis. So precis is one area where you have to focus for reducing the number of words and covering the content, so that you can do before the exam.
For
Okay,
English
ma'am.
we also have a module. It is free for everyone, right? I shared with them also. So I can share it in the group. I'll share it in the group. So it is free for all. It just has compilation of a lot of toppers, my own compilation, right? And whatever they will share I will also put it there. So there you will have basic formats and basic tips for preci letter writing, report writing, all those things. So you can maybe start off with that, give 15 20 minutes a week. That would be sufficient, right?
Okay.
Okay, any more questions? We can take few more questions and then we can wind up before something. Like there is also another common question about GK paper of IFS. So
If we can back of the mind in
okay, okay.
25 attempt.
Okay, Suraj,
Can I
please
can I
go ahead.
ask, sir?
Yes.
Yes, it's my last question. Sorry to be I asking more question. It is last to both of ma'am. How can we start the preparation for forest to keep in mind of 2020 fifth attempt? Because in 2025 it's 1.5 year time. So when should we start, and from which, or for mains or for pre?
So okay, like Suraj, I also want to club this question of Suraj to a general question which also is there in this questionnaire to both of you, right? If there is someone like there are a lot of people in this seminar who are in their college itself, so they will be giving their first attempt in 2025 or even some in 2026. In general, also a lot of people ask if they want to become like Medha was also a deputy collector, which is also itself a dream job of a lot of people. So if somebody want to be the top officer, deputy collector, collector, IFS kind of a things to start preparing for UPSC, and they are in the formative year, right? They still have couple of years time. So in that way, what would you suggest, like based on an experience, how they should approach the preparation from scratch?
So, sir, I would say that for anyone who's just starting out, so you have an opportunity to first of all build a solid foundation. And by that I mean always start with the foundational books. Make sure that you read them, you learn them, and it should be it should be printed into your memory. And over the course of time, you will time and again keep returning to the same foundational books. So start from there, start reading it, and inculcate certain good habits like newspaper reading, which I feel is a very valuable habit for any aspirant. And once you have these two things in place, then you can start focusing on the needs of the exam. Like if for anyone who's targeting forest service, I feel the biggest stumbling block for them is prelims. So they can start by approaching prelims ka PYQ dena shuru kar sakte hain. And also as and when once you become comfortable with prelims and you start moving on to main stage, another habit that I think you have to build is that of answer writing. Answer writing is a very valuable skill. Unfortunately, we could not cover it in detail in this session, but like briefly, I'll just tell you what my core strategy for answer writing is. I struggled with this in civil services, that I would always exceed the time limit. Uh, like I could not complete a lot of questions in time because I was writing too much, or I was writing too slowly. I was very baffled. I did not know what I was doing wrong because I simply could not finish a paper. And over a period of time, I've evolved this strategy that uh, I try and write less, but quality points. Like that is my new approach. That is what I have been following lately. And for that, first of all, I evolved a point-wise format of writing. I include bullet points in anything. Like for example, if the question asks what is XYZ, I will start with very one-line intro maybe. Don't write a very basic intro because then it does not add any value. Like write one intro and then in bullet points include all the technical keywords. Like keywords are very very valuable, especially in a technical optional like geology. Your examiner is going to be a subject expert. He has read geology over years. He knows this subject in and out. So whenever you use a keyword, it will impress him. It will cast this impression that the student has actually studied and understood and knows the nitty gritties of the subject. So instead of writing one paragraph trying to explain a phenomenon, write the keyword that is used to describe it. So rely a lot on those. And it also helps while studying, because instead of memorizing large volumes of text, we only remember keywords. The second tool which I used, which is again I think very helpful, and I will advise anyone who's to good at presentation skills to really lean into this strength. This will carry your marks like anything. matlab, like you all know that I covered both optionals in a short duration of time. I was running out of time by the end of my preparation. I could not even revise a lot. But I knew that there was one thing in which, I would be better than my competition, which was presentation. So even in forestry, even though I may not have known as many points, but I drew a lot of diagrams, and I drew beautiful diagrams. I was probably the only person who took colored pens to the exam, but I took it and I used it, and I made I tried to make sure ki whatever I know, I present it in the best way possible for the examiner's purpose, especially like topics like paleontology, where we talk about fossil morphology. So I did not give any big, no paragraphs, nothing. I used to simply draw, label, mark, वहीं पे, and I used to write, and I was like done. उससे ज़्यादा मैं तो कुछ लिखती नहीं थी, चाहे pages रहे या whatever. In 10 markers, my goal was 1 page. I will write high quality content, but that's it. So this happened, and this happened with me several times. That earlier I used to focus. I used to feel very self-conscious. Ki yaar ye page reh ja raha hai, and I have to fill all pages to give this impression that I know a lot. But I think we're not fooling anyone by filling pages. The examiner is too smart. They will read and know ki isme kuch value ka hai ya nahi. So save your time. Just write key points. Draw diagrams, and don't be concerned ki हाँ नहीं नहीं इतना page तो बच गया. Like don't leave. I'm not saying I'm not saying कि मत लिखो आप, but just make sure कि आप value के points लिखो, brief में लिखो, अच्छे से लिखो, and that's all.
Yes, I agree with Megha. So, as you are asking for the 2025 attempts, so whatever Megha mentioned, along with that, answer writing. So, I also focus on the answer writing part because personally, I was not very good at writing when I started the preparation. So, my answer writing journey started from 2019 till 2022. I never stopped writing answer, whether I cleared prelims, I did not clear prelims. So maybe that helped me in GK part here in forest. So I could see in comments that many people are asking about GK part. So GK part foundation was built during my early days of preparation, as Medha mentioned, that using that foundation, and I also practiced a lot with respect to the CSC answer writing practice. So clubbing those things, I could score good marks in GK. So when for the 2025 attempt or 24 attempt or 26 attempt you are giving, focus on these two. They are building your basics and solving prelims questions to make sure that you will be getting good marks in prelims. And second is answer writing. So these will come anywhere, like even if it is CSC or even if it is in forest.
All right. So read newspaper, give a look to PYQs, and focus a lot on answer writing, presentation, right? So like if somebody asked me very recently ki, what is the most important skill set to become an IAS or an IFS officer, so like in my opinion, after clearing prelims, the most important skill set is your handwriting as well as handwriting speed, right? Because I know a lot of very talented people कि भाई they are very analytical, great content, but they never complete paper. तो अगर आप 20 में से 16-17 सवाल अटेम्प्ट करके आओगे, यू विल नेवर बी गेटिंग इन टॉप रैंक्स ना. सो इवन मतलब इंटरव्यू कॉल विल बी डिफिकल्ट, कितना नॉलेज हो. सो here quantity, attempting 20 questions, at least 19 question is very important. उसके लिए we need speed. So one way to develop speed, like they both like Kavya practice irrespective of prelims results, she keep writing a lot of things, right? She brought green pen and all these things. So these are very important things, I think. So if possible, apart from reading, apart from newspaper and other things, always write, make notes. So that will come in very handy, because in means we need to write 3,000 words, right? In forest, because this is a technical paper, so a lot of student with even a lesser legible handwriting can clear. So these are like very important thing, right? Anything else?
Sir, I have one question. So the answer writing advice is with respect to GK syllabus and GS syllabus, or mainly with respect to optional? like the regularity of answer writing?
I would say it is not just with respect to optional or the forestry or with respect to GS. It is a skill. Overall, answer writing, I would say, is a skill. So if you develop that skill, you will write whatever the question you get with a very minimum content which you have. So I would say that overall writing skill, answer writing skill, whatever they ask. So I remember if I have to quote it from CSE, questions would be like in a twisted manner. So they would not ask directly that what or how or why. So we have to interpret those questions that whether he is asking what, he is asking how, or he is asking why. So you should understand that you should write answer in such a way that it should meet the demand of the question. So same with the respect to the optional also, same with respect to the GK paper of the forestry also. So once you develop that skill, so write anything. So take up any small question or whatever the newspaper summary. So take anything or develop the skill. So I would say that.
All right. Any more questions, anyone? Lawrence, sir, you wish to ask anything else?
Thank you, ma'am.
No, I think yeah, I'm good. I think most of the questions were covered and very well answered by both Kavya and Medha. So I'm very thankful that you could make it and enlighten like some of the aspirants. They'll find. I'm definitely sure they'll find it like super useful. Whatever pointers you have told them, and it was also very delightful for me to learn from your experiences. We also like whenever we talk to toppers, it also helps us like in our guidance in improving our courses. What helped, maybe there are some things which did not work, which could not be improved. So all those points are very useful for us. So I would like to thank you both all, and also like congratulate for your achievement and wish you all the success in life, because many times we say like the actual journey now starts here, right? Like in the service. Many people think like this is the end, but this is really the beginning. So that's why like I would like to wish you both all the very best.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
So, Medha, Kavya, we can end the session. Before that, do you want to add anything else to the aspirants? Like we will also be putting this to YouTube for the benefit of other students. So, do you want to end it on some note?
So I would just wish everyone here all the best. And I feel like for aspirants, this is a long journey, and not to be disheartened. Take whatever useful inputs you could get from us and apply it in your preparation. And it's okay, even if you have a different strategy and if you want to go a different way, that is also completely fine. The whole purpose, we want to share our experience here, tell you what worked for us. But at the end of the day, nobody knows for sure. It's like UPSC is a black box. Everything goes in and the results come out. What happens in between is not known. So find something that suits you. Lean into your own strengths, and and I'm sure like whatever path you pick that is most suitable for you, that will lead you to success.
Yes, along with that, I also want to add on to that whatever Medha said is about this UPSC is a marathon, and also we will be failing in one or the other stage sometimes. So that would cost a lot of mental health issues. So take care of that also. That don't get into that spiral mode of that not clearing and then getting into the sympathy mode or going inside deep inside the spiral. So which I would say that I was also one of the victim of that for an year or so. So that would cause anxiety and other issues. So take care of the mental health. And for that, first of all, you have to accept the fact that this is happening to you, whether even in a very minute way possible, as Medha mentioned during our prelims paper, during initial 5 or 10 minutes of that, so she could recognize it and she could accept it and then get back and rectify it. So that is the best way possible, is accept that and try to find a solution and overcome that in a short span of time, and then focus on your studies. So both are very important here in this journey.
All right, right. So, like, thank you, Medha, thank you, Kavya. We are very proud of your, we are proud of your what we call is meticulousness in whatever way we could interact with you, and the perseverance of you both despite so many challenges. Right, this was a very insightful session. Thank you for that, and I am pretty sure you will be available for future aspirants also. So whenever
Yeah.
we get a lot of query, we will definitely seek your help in maybe in session or in some other way. So thank you. I think we can end the session here for now, and we can definitely connect later also, right?
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sir, for having us.
Okay.
All the best to everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming.